course, opening up the main card, we have the one, the only Nate Landwehr. Choo choo, motherfuckers, let's go. I love this guy. All out action every time you see him fight, and he doesn't care. This man wants to put on a show, and he's going up against the Korean Superboy that had the fight of the year when he went up against the aforementioned Cub Swanson. But he disappeared for a while, went to the military, 4 years in the Korean Navy, but then he came back and took out Bill Algeo last time out in the second round. The Korean Superboy is not a man to take lightly, but going up against Nate the Train, listen, he might have his hands full here. Last time we saw Nate, it was against Jamal Lemmers. Again, first round knockout. There's a reason why these guys are opening up the main card. Not the biggest names, granted. Nate the Train is slowly plugging away. He is a showman. He thrills the crowds and the audiences. But inside the octagon, the man is a finisher. 18 stoppages out of 23 victories, and I believe this one, Nate the Train gets the job done. Although I'm not too sure, the Korean Superboy, he's got some real good power in his hand.
Nate Landwehr versus Dooho Choi. Dooho Choi coming off of a KO against Bill Algeo, which is a pretty good win. Right, Bill Algeo, I believe he beat. Who's the guy that he beat? Joe Anderson Brito. So Bill Algeo is pretty tricky, and Dooho Choi knocked him out. Right? But this is Nate Landwehr we're talking about. Right? This is Nate Landwehr coming off of a KO over Jamal Emmers, I believe. And, Nate Landwehr can get hurt. We've seen him get dropped by Emmers. We saw him get dropped by Onama. But he's got that ability to recover. He's got such a good ability to get up when he's dropped and to get right back into the fight. I'm going with Nate Landwehr. All right, he actually had a pretty good performance against Dan Ige. He got outstruck against Ige, right? Again, we talk about how he has a good ability to recover. Didn't get finished by Ige, which is pretty impressive. But he was winning the third round. And that's what I like about Nate Landwehr. If he doesn't get finished, I'm going to pick him to beat every single person that's at the level of Dooho Choi because his cardio is really good. He has a submission game, which is important as well. And he's just got such a wide variety of attacks, right? He can go with the oblique kicks, got great front kicks. He's got good boxing. I think Nate Landwehr is going to get this one done.
What's up, fight fans? Welcome to Mr. Mustache MMA News. Today, I want to discuss an upcoming fight this Saturday, UFC 310, between Nate Landwehr and Dooho Choi. But before I get into it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to continue getting more MMA content by yours truly and to help the channel grow. All right, guys, getting right into it. We got a fight that is for sure going to be a finish one way or another. Nate Landwehr, Nate the Train, is going to be taking on Superboy Dooho Choi in a fight that, it's just almost a guarantee, a great fight to open up the pay-per-view. You got Nate Landwehr, who hasn't been so active. He's had some issues in the personal life. I don't really, he's had some loss. I don't really want to get into it too much. I think it'll take away from the fight. But the guy's got some motivation. If you guys want to look into what's going on with his life, just Google Nate Landwehr, personal life. I'm pretty sure you'll find what you need to find. But he does not lack motivation in this fight, so to speak. So, and going against Dooho Choi, who, at one point, back in 2016, Superboy was, he was the next Korean prospect. That kid, the UFC was really pushing him. And he had that fight of the year with Cub Swanson, back and forth. Yeah, it was a loss, but there was still a lot of hype behind his name, and then got knocked out by Jeremy Stephens pretty bad. Just fucked up. Took some time off, came back, fought Charles Jourdain, got knocked out, taken the fuck out. And then he had the fight for Kyle Nelson, but Choi was deducted a point. So it ended up being like a majority draw. It was a weird fight. Came back, beat Bill Algeo. So now you have Superboy, 33 years old now. It's 2024. It's been about 8 years since he was this big prospect, and he's taken on Nate the Train Landwehr. And I think that this fight is going to be the end of Dooho Choi. I really do. He's dangerous as ever. He's got good striking, but I think Nate, what he brings physically to this fight, his raw power, his presence, his pressure, the dude's knees up the middle. This guy, he is a fucking train. He's a locomotive going straight at his fucking opponent. And you see him a lot of the times lose the first round and struggles to, he's got to get hit a couple times. And he's got a good chin. He's been put out before, he's been dropped a lot of times, but he has a way of coming back, just like a little mini Chris Lieben out there, just going out there, it's a little fucking wrecking ball. And Nate Landwehr, I'm a fan. His win with Jamal Emmers, He got hurt early, was able to battle it back, and then just make Jamal pay. Before that, had the fight with Dan Ige, where Dan is such a tactician, consummate veteran. He really is like that guy who's like number 7 in the world. You've really got to be a top 5 motherfucker to get past him. So it was a tough loss, but I mean, if you're not a top 5 guy, even if you are a top 5 guy, you're in it for a long night against Nate Landwehr. I mean, his only losses are to Dan Ige, Julian Juicy J. Arosa, and Herbert Burns back when like people thought that that guy was going to be a problem, right? But I mean, his victory over Darren Elkins, I mean, he had to dig deep, get bloody, get grimy, and that's exactly what that's where Dooho Choi struggles. He struggles being the nail. When he's the hammer, he's good. But Nate Landwehr, he can do it both ways. He can take a beating, he can bounce back, and that's where I think is going to be the difference in this fight. And I think Nate Landwehr, yeah, he might take a little bit of punishment early on, but I think 3 minutes into the first round, maybe even just going into the second round, we're going to see a different fucking fight. And Nate Landwehr's going to go out there and impose his will and make Dooho Choi pay for whatever punishment that he puts out early on in the fight. Nate Landwehr, first, second, he's going to get a finish in this fight somehow. I don't know what round, but he's going to get a finish against Dooho Choi.
Nate Landwehr versus Dooho Choi. I'm going to go with Nate Landwehr. Pressure breaks Dooho Choi. Dooho Choi is very good. He was saved by his chin a lot in the earlier part of his career when he first went on a run and he got to the Cub Swanson fight, had a fight of the year contender. Amazing fight, if anyone hasn't seen it. One of the best fights you'll ever see. Cub Swanson, Dooho Choi. But he can be pressured and broken. He can be pressured and broken. He does get a little bit lackluster as the fight goes on sometimes. Very sharp early on. Could catch Nate Landwehr early on. But I've seen Nate Landwehr fight early on against dangerous. David Onama is very dangerous on the feet to just walk into like that. And he did catch Nate and put him down. But Nate's recovery is very good. Then he gets into grappling. Then he starts shooting takedowns. Then he starts working that against you as well. This is either going to be a Dooho Choi, he's back moment where he KOs Nate Landwehr in the first 2 minutes. Or Nate Landwehr beats the hell out of Dooho Choi and makes him retire. I could see that. I could see Nate Landwehr beating up on Dooho Choi, finishing him in the later rounds, maybe round 3 or round 2. Nate's really good. I like Nate Landwehr. I think Nate Landwehr would do better against grapplers. I will say that. I'm going to get to a matchup next that I hate the look of. But I think Nate Landwehr would do better against grapplers. But listen, he just finished Emmers in round 1 by TKO. That's very impressive. Jamal Emmers is very tricky to fight. A lot of people forget, man. Jamal Emmers. That's an underrated win for Nate Landwehr to be coming off of right now because Emmers gives a tough fight to a lot of people. He beat Corey Sandhagen on a regional scene. Took Giga Chikadze to a split decision on his come up. Lost to Pat Sabatini by being heel hooked after going for a finish after dropping him. But split decision with Jack Jenkins on the feet for 3 rounds. That's impressive. You know, fraud checked Kashane Ashkabov 23-0. I'm going to go Nate Landwehr. I think he's going to break down Dooho Choi. Work in some grappling in the second and third. And then maybe get a TKO win. Or maybe get that dash choke that he always goes for. So I'll go with Nate Landwehr getting this one done.
Welcome back to another episode of Quick Picks with the Geek. I am your host, Bro Power the Geek. All right, folks, let's dive into this featherweight matchup between Nate Landwehr and Dooho Choi. 2 guys who don't exactly believe in the phrase, play it safe. This one has fight of the night written all over it, or at least somebody's getting hurt. Let's break it down. Nate Landwehr, first up. Nate, the train, Landwehr, the minus 155 favorite with a record of 18-5. Watching Nate fight is like watching a backyard barbecue where someone suddenly yells, "Hold my beer!" The man fights like he's auditioning for a spot in an action movie. Pure chaos, no breaks. Landwehr thrives on pressure. He gets in his opponent's face, throws volume, and isn't afraid to eat a few shots to land his own. Defense? Not exactly his strongest suit, but cardio? Relentless. He's like that one friend at the gym who won't stop doing burpees even when the class is over. What makes Nate so dangerous is his ability to drag people into his kind of fight. A gritty, high-paced brawl where technique sometimes takes a back seat to pure determination. If you're not ready to fight every second of every round, the train will run you over. Dooho Choi. Now let's talk about Dooho, the Korean Superboy Choi, the plus 130 underdog with a record of 15-4. Choi might look like he just finished his homework, but don't let the baby face fool you. This man hits like a truck. Choi's striking is crisp, technical, and packs serious power. His right hand might as well come with a fragile handle with care warning, because if it lands clean, lights out. But here's the rub. His recent track record isn't exactly inspiring. In his last 5 outings, he's 1-3-1. Sure, he's fought some tough competition, but the losses have raised questions about his ability to hang at the top. What Choi does have going for him is his composure. Even in wild exchanges, he keeps his technique sharp and looks for opportunities to counter. If he can handle Landwehr's pressure without getting overwhelmed, he's got a real shot at landing something big. So, who wins? This fight comes down to who can impose their will. If Landwehr can drag Choi into a chaotic, high-volume brawl, he's got a clear edge. But if Choi can stay composed and use his precision striking to keep Nate at bay, he could absolutely put the train back in the station. Official pick, Nate Landwehr. While Choi has the power and technique to make things interesting, I think Landwehr's relentless pace and pressure will be too much. He's not just fighting to win, he's fighting to break you mentally. I see Nate forcing Choi into a dogfight and eventually finding a finish. Whether it's a TKO or a submission after wearing him down, Landwehr's style is tailor-made to exploit Choi's struggles in high-pressure situations. Nate by late second round TKO.
Next fight on the card, we have the main card opener. Nate Landwehr versus Dooho Choi. Why is this the main card opener? This isn't even the worst fight on the main card, if we're being honest. But this makes no sense that it's the main card opener. But listen, Dooho Choi is coming off a win over Bill Algeo, where he got a KO, where Bill Algeo kind of quit. He looked okay in that fight, but he was coming back off a 2-year layoff against Kyle Nelson. The fight he was winning, and then he had a point deducted, so it ended up being a majority decision draw, I believe. And then before that, got KO'd by Charles Jourdain, but that's 5 years ago. Before that, got KO'd by Jeremy Stevens. That's almost 7 years ago. Before that, got KO'd or got beat by Cub Swanson. And that was his claim to fame, was that crazy fight against Cub Swanson. Nate Landwehr is a dog. He is a dog. He's coming off a win over Jamal Emmers, who's a very quality opponent. Before that, lost to Dan Ige in a competitive fight. Before that, beat Austin Lingo, who's like a dollar store version of Nate Landwehr. Before that, beat David Onamo. You know, we need Nate Landwehr versus Bryce Mitchell. That'd be a hilarious fight. But yeah, listen, Dooho Choi definitely has the striking advantage, but I don't think it's that crazy significant. And I also think Nate Landwehr has the grappling advantage. And I just think Nate Landwehr is just such a dog. He's not easy to finish by any means. And I just think he's going to go out there and beat Dooho Choi. I think he's gonna beat him. I think Dooho Choi is gonna get tired. He's gonna get exhausted. He's gonna get taken down. He's gonna get grinded into the mat. He's gonna get beaten up with ground and pound. And I think Nate Landwehr is gonna get it done. I'm gonna pick Nate Landwehr to get it done. I'm gonna say 3rd round TKO. I just don't see this being a clean fight, and that's kind of how this fight has to be for Dooho Choi to get it done. A clean fight, or maybe he finds a nice clean shot on the feet and slumps Nate Landwehr. Nate Landwehr is super durable. He's super durable. So I don't see him getting put out. I see Dooho Choi having some success on the feet, but it doesn't matter because Nate Landwehr is going to walk right through it. Start barking at him maybe. Shout out Ansho Jubilee. Who was barking at Ansho Jubilee? I don't even remember off the top of my head. Mike Breeden? Was it Mike Breeden? I just see Nate Landwehr walking through the big shots of Dooho Choi, mixing in the grappling, mixing in the clinch. I see Dooho Choi getting busted up on the feet, bloodied and battered. Nate Landwehr is going to eat some shots. He's going to have some swelling and some blood dripping down his face as well. And I just see Nate Landwehr out dogging Dooho Choi. I'm picking Nate Landwehr to get it done. I'm going to say 3rd round TKO.